Namaste. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. And please accept my respects, everyone. We are going to finish through reading the introduction, and so we can get started on Canto 1 eventually. I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances unto Jagat Guru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, praying for his mercy, and to my spiritual grandfather, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So please join along for chanting. possible. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Okay. Continuing on in the introduction of the Srimad Bhagavatam. The transcendental relationship of the pastimes of the Lord is the source of still more bliss than one can experience by realization of the Brahman or by becoming one with the Supreme. Had it not been so, then those who are already situated in the transcendental bliss of Brahman would not have been attracted by the transcendental bliss of the pastimes of the Lord. So there's many cases, including my own spiritual master, who were Brahman had realized the Brahman aspect of God, but they were attracted to the chanting and the hearing about Krishna's names and also about Krishna. Srila Vyasadeva also actually, his son Shukadev Goswami was born as a impersonalist. He was a renunciate, and he left at when he was born. He stayed in the womb for 16 years, and then came out and immediately left to try to go off to the forest. And Srila Vyasadeva actually had his disciples go out and recite the Srimad Bhagavatam out loud. And so Srila Vyasadeva had heard that, plus he'd heard it in the womb also in the chanting of Krishna's name, so he was attracted immediately to that. After this, a great meeting was arranged by the devotees of the Lord in which all the sannyasis were invited, including the Lord and Prakashananda Saraswati. In this meeting, both the scholars of the Lord and Prakashananda had a long discourse on the spiritual values of the Sankirtan movement, and a summary is given below. The great Mayavadi sannyasi Prakashananda inquired from the Lord as to the reason for his preferring the Sankirtan movement to the study of the Vedanta Sutra. Prakashananda said that it is the duty of a sannyasi to read the Vedanta Sutra. What caused the Lord to indulge in Sankirtan? So because the impersonalists, Vedantists believe that Vaishnavas are inferior because they chant the names of Krishna. They believe they're sentimentalists and not very intelligent, which is not true at all, as we can tell from all these scriptures that we read. After this inquiry, the Lord submissively replied, I have taken to the Sankirtan movement instead of study of Vedanta because I am a great fool. The Lord thus represented himself as one of the numberless fools of this age who are absolutely incapable of studying the Vedanta philosophy. The fool's indulgence in the study of Vedanta has caused so much havoc in society, which is true because they interpret it willy-nilly, according however they want to do it and whatever they want to get out of it. The Lord thus continued, and because I am a great fool, my spiritual master forbade me to play with Vedanta philosophy. He said it is better that I chant the holy name of the Lord, for that would deliver me from material bondage. Smart, right? In this age of Kali, there is no other religion but the glorification of the Lord by utterance of his holy name. And that is the injunction of all the revealed scriptures. And my spiritual master has taught me one shloka from the Brihan Naradiya Purana. Harinama, 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 Eva Kevalam, Kalo Nasteva, 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 Gatilanyata. So on the order of the Spirit, my spiritual master, I chant the holy name of Hari, and I am now mad after this holy name. So that quote from the Hari, of course, is chant the names of Krishna, chant the names of Krishna, chant the names of Krishna. In this age of quarrel, chaos, and confusion, there is no other way in this age to achieve spiritual realization. There is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So, Whenever I utter the holy name, I forget myself completely, and sometimes I laugh, cry, and dance like a madman. I thought that I had actually gone mad by this process of chanting, and therefore I asked my spiritual master about it. He informed me that this was the real effect of chanting the holy name, which produces a transcendental emotion that is a rare manifestation. It is a sign of love of God, which is the ultimate end of life. Love of God is transcendental to liberation, mukti, and thus it is called the fifth stage of spiritual realization, above the stage of liberation. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one attains the stage of love of God, and it was good that fortunately I was favored with this blessing, with the blessing. Very nice. We're in this age of celebrating the appearance of Lord Jesus Christus, and this is Lord Jesus Christus was a bhakta. He also taught him through his commandment the same philosophy that the ultimate goal of life is to come to love the Lord God, and by loving the Lord God, one can love all living entities. On hearing this statement from the Lord, the Mayavadi sannyasi asked the Lord what was the harm in studying the Vedanta along with chanting the holy name. Prakashananda Saraswati knew well that the Lord was formerly known as Nimai Pandit, a very learned scholar of Navadvip, and his posing as a great fool was certainly to some purpose. Hearing this inquiry by the sannyasi, the Lord smiled and said, "My dear sir, if you do not mind, I will answer your inquiry." Okay, here we go. All the sannyasis there were very much pleased with the Lord for his honest dealings, and they unanimously replied that they would not be offended by whatever he replied. The Lord then spoke as follows. So one of the things that is not mentioned here, which I maybe mentioned in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or definitely in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, is that Lord Chaitanya, when he was invited by Prakashananda Saraswati to meet with him, he took the lowest point and sat on the dirty part of the floor where the feet, and immediately Prakashananda saw Lord Chaitanya and was struck by, attracted to him because of his beauty of Lord Chaitanya, and immediately saw Lord Chaitanya on the floor and just went to go take him off the floor. Please don't sit there. And so immediately the purification was already beginning, and Lord Chaitanya, of course, then is able to teach this devotee who has Brahman realization, but will learn, as said before, about the higher stage of realization with Bhakti Yoga. All the sannyas, the Lord then spoke as follows. Vedanta Sutra consists of transcendental words or sounds uttered by the transcendental personality of Godhead. As such, in the Vedanta, there cannot be any human deficiencies like mistake, illusion, cheating, or inefficiency. The message of the Upanishad is expressed in the Vedanta Sutra, and what is said there directly is certainly glorified. Whatever interpretations have been given by Shankaracharya have no direct bearing on the sutra, and therefore such commentation spoils everything. So very wonderful. The fact that Sripad Shankaracharya took it upon his own liberty to do word jugglery and take the evident, straightforward conclusion of the Vedanta Sutra, what it was, as we read the Bhagavad Gita, right? It's called Bhagavad Gita as it is. So what it is. You don't need to try to twist things around to try to come up with your own philosophy. And this is what impersonalism or monism, Vedantists, spoil everything, because they take the teachings of Shankaracharya in this lineage, and even to today, they are still, it's like this spoiled milk that's they're handing down, right? Or like we use the analogy of the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, or teachings of Krishna, teachings of our spiritual masters, is like mangoes that the spiritual master previously hands down perfectly to the disciple, and the disciple receives it perfectly applies it perfectly and hands it down perfectly. But you can perfectly hand down a rock and say it's a mango, and it's not really a mango. If you try to bite into it, it's still a rock. They may completely spoil things, and they may just have a pit or a rotten mango or something, but they don't have the original mango in it. So people can be so-called in disciplic lineage, but be handing down things that have been changed and altered, then it's not true. The word Brahman indicates the greatest of all, which is full with transcendental opulences, superior to all. Brahman is ultimately the personality of Godhead, and he is covered by indirect interpretations and established as impersonal. Everything that is in the spiritual world is full of transcendental bliss, including the form, body, place, and paraphernalia of the Lord. All are eternally cognizant and blissful. It is not the fault of the Acharya Shankara that he has so interpreted Vedanta, because, of course, this is what he was instructed to do. But if someone accepts it, then certainly he is doomed. Same thing with Buddhism. You know, we don't criticize Lord Buddha because Lord Buddha was an incarnation of Sri Krishna in a certain particular purpose. We give all respects to Lord Buddha for what he taught and what he did in the in the process of reestablishing bhakti. But we don't accept the teachings of Lord Buddhism as being, we don't follow that to a T. And a lot of the conclusions are incorrect and for a purpose. Same thing with Shankaracharya. So we don't hate on Acharya Shankaracharya because he is Lord Shiva. So this is pretty much understood. But if someone accepts it, then he certainly is doomed. Anyone who accepts the transcendental body of the personality of God as something mundane certainly commits the greatest blasphemy. The Lord thus spoke to the sannyasi almost in the same way that he spoke to the Bhattacharya Puri, and by forceful arguments he nullified the Mayavada interpretations of the Vedanta Sutra. All the sannyasis there claimed that the Lord was the personified Vedas, the personality of Godhead, because these teachers, the Bhattacharya and Prakashananda Saraswati, were not just ordinary personalities. They were very, very well learned, well read, very advanced people, but they were no match. Their arguments were no match for Krishna, for Lord Chaitanya. All the sannyasis were converted to the cult of bhakti, and all of them accepted the holy name of the Lord Sri Krishna, and they dined together with the Lord in the midst of them. After this conversion of the sannyasis, the popularity of the Lord increased at Varanasi, and thousands of people assembled to see the Lord in person. The Lord thus established the primary importance of Srimad Bhagavatam Dharma, and he defeated all other systems of spiritual realization. Since then, everyone at Varanasi was overwhelmed with the transcendental Sankirtan movement. While the Lord was camping at Varanasi, Sanatan Goswami also arrived after retiring from office. He was formerly one of the state ministers in the government of Bengal, then under the regime of Nawaz Hussain Shah. He had some difficulty in getting relief from the state service, for the Nawab was reluctant to let him leave. So as we remember, that Islam had spread mostly through military purposes, right? Military ability. After the disappearance of Muhammad, his followers took Islam all over. It's quite widespread. So there's a lot of Muslim countries now, and Islam has spread very quickly, but not because of any kind of real logic, but more because of military forcing. And India was actually very susceptible to that, because they had the caste system, and anybody who was forced to eat meat, which Muslims would say, we will kill you if you don't eat meat, or they would stick meat in the mouth, and then they were rejected by the Hindu caste, and that was the way that they were able to convert so many people to Islam. Or they just cut their heads off. They don't want to do that. And people were afraid. Nonetheless, he came to Varanasi, and the Lord taught him the principles of devotional service. He taught him about the constitutional position of the living being, the cause of his bondage under material conditions, his eternal relation with the personality of Godhead, the transcendental position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his expansions in different plenary portions of incarnations, his control of different parts of the universe, the nature of his transcendental abode, devotional activities, their different stages of development, the rules and regulations for achieving the gradual stages of spiritual perfection, the symptoms of different incarnations and different ages, and how to detect them with reference to the context of revealed scriptures. Whew. So that's all in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I think it is summarized in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. But amazing. It's really very, very deep, this philosophy. The Lord's teachings to Sanatana Goswami, and this is why we call these the Sanatana Goswami, wrote many wonderful things that Lord Chaitanya had taught him. He wrote so many great books. Form a big chapter in the text of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and to explain the whole teachings in minute details will require a volume in itself. These are treated in detail in our book, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. So the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya is a nice book. I've read that. It's a wonderful book by Bhaktivedanta, summarizing that kind of like a condensed version of what the Chaitanya Charitamrita teaches in full. So I do recommend reading the Chaitanya Charitamrita, but for those of you who are working towards that, you can get the Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. And I do mean to keep remembering to show you the book, but next class I will do that. At Mathura, the Lord visited all the important places. Then he reached Vrindavan. Lord Chaitanya appeared in the family of a high-caste Brahmana, and over and above that, as sannyasi, he was a preceptor for all the varnas and ashrams. But he used to accept meals from all classes of Vaishnavas. At Mathura, the Sanodiya Brahmanas are considered to be in the lower status of society, but the Lord accepted meals in the family of such a Brahmana, also because his host happened to be a disciple of the Madhravinda Puri family, which was in his spiritual master. At Vrindavan, the Lord took bath in 24 important bathing places and ghats. He traveled to all the 12 important vanas, forests. In these forests, all the cows and birds welcomed him, and as if he were their very old friend. The Lord also began to embrace all the trees of those forests, and by doing so, he felt the symptoms of transcendental ecstasy. Sometimes he fell unconscious, but he was made to regain consciousness by the chanting of the holy name of Krishna. The transcendental symptoms that were visible on the body of the Lord during his travel within the forest of Vrindavan were all unique and inexplicable, and we have just given a synopsis only. Some of the most important places that were visited by the Lord in Vrindavan were Kamyavana, Adishvara, Pavana, Solavara, Kadiravana, Sheshayi, Kela Tirtha, Bandi Rivana, Bhadravana, Shrivana, Lavana, Madhavana, Gokula, Kaliya, Hrada, Davada, Shaditya, Keshatirtha, etc. I don't know why those are important, but I'm sure there could be a book in each place. When he saw the place where the Rasa dance took place, he at once fell down in trance. As long as he remained at Vrindavan, he made his headquarters at Akura Gata. So these must be places within the Vrindavan district where Krishna had his pastimes. From Vrindavan, his personal servitor Krishnadas Vipra induced him to go back to Prayag to take bath during the Magha Mela. The Lord acceded to this proposal, and they started for Prayag. On the way, they were met with some Pathanas, amongst whom there was a learned Mulana. I'm not sure what I could probably have to look up all these words to see what exactly they are. Mulana must be like somehow a scholar or something. The Lord had some talks with the Mulana and his companions, and the Lord convinced the Mulana that in the Quran, Mulana must be like probably like, what do they call those in Islam? I have to think about that word, but the kind of a Mulana is probably like a scholarly type of Muslim. The Lord convinced that the Mulana that in the Quran also there are descriptions of the Bhagavad Dharma and Krishna. All the Pathanas were converted to his cult of devotional service. Krishna, Lord Chaitanya he is just like the spiritual master. They are able to, they're Paramahamsas, so they're great swan. A Hamsa is a swan, and a swan is able to take the milk out of a lotus flower from the lotus, and this is likened to the great Paramahamsa. And even our spiritual master's name was Paramahamsa. He's a great saintly swan, a great swan who is able to extract the meaning from the Vedic teachings and all the religious texts. So even Lord Chaitanya was able to take the Quran, which is pretty much more in the mode of passion and more like a rules and regulations text. So when you read it, it's kind of more awe and reverence. So there's not very much, but descriptions of Bhagavad Dharma and Krishna too. It talks about Krishna in there too. I have to research that one. I think I've heard that, but if you don't have a spiritual master in Islam, and people don't, then you're not going to really understand the importance of the essence of the scriptures that you're reading. You just kind of read it. You might be interpreting things. There's all kinds of, increasing amount, just like Christianity has, hundreds of different sects. Islam has now got something like 12 different sects, They're splitting consistently, people interpreting things. And what the teachings of Muhammad and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada had also stated that Muhammad was a pure devotee of Krishna. So he, like many great prophets in the past and devotees of Krishna, may not have been teaching Bhagavad Dharma directly because of the consciousness of the people, the Arabic people in the time of when Muhammad appeared, they had to be just like the Hebrews. They had a very low consciousness. They were basically trying to instruct these people not to sleep with their children, not to sleep with their animals, and not to kill each other just out of blood sport, and just all kinds of low consciousness things. So to teach about love for God is hard because of the consciousness. Anyway, that was sort of a side thing, but here that's what Lord Chaitanya did. He returned to Prayag. Srila Rupa Goswami and his younger brother met him near Bindu Madhava temple. This time the Lord was welcomed by the people of Prayag more respectively. Vallabha Bhatta, who resided on the other bank of Prayag in the village of Adela, was to receive him at his place. But while going there, the Lord jumped in the river Jamuna. With great difficulty, he was picked up in an unconscious state. Finally, he visited the headquarters of Vallabha Bhatta. This Vallabha Bhatta was one of his chief admirers, but later on he inaugurated his own party, the Vallabha Sampradaya. On the bank of the Dashashvamedha Gata at Prayag for 10 days continually, the Lord instructed Rupa Goswami in the science of devotional service to the Lord. He taught the Goswami. Now remember, Goswami means master, and Go means the senses. So a Goswami is the master of the senses. And because he is a master of the senses, he can be a real master, a teacher of bhakti. He taught the Goswami the divisions of the living creatures in the 8,400,000 species of life. Then he taught him about the human species. Out of them he discussed the followers of the Vedic principles, out of them the fruitive workers, out of them the empiric philosophers, and out of them the liberated souls. He said that there are only a few who are actually pure devotees of Lord Sri Krishna. Srila Rupa Goswami was the younger brother of Sanatana Goswami, and when he retired from service, he brought with him 2 boatfuls of gold coins. So they had money because they were working in the magistrates, the Muslim magistrates and government. So they were rich, and they left, and they took their money with them. This means that he brought with him some hundreds of thousands of rupees accumulated by the labor of his service, and before leaving home for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he divided the wealth as follows: 50% for the service of the Lord and his devotees, 25% for relatives, and 25% for his personal needs in case of emergency. And that way he set an example for all householders. So this is kind of a staple for householders. We have a certain amount of money to maintain our household, to buy food and pay for our living expenses and whatnot, but we also are required to contribute part of what we earn to the propagation of Chaitanya's movement, because we're householders. So we're not brahmacharis, and many times brahmacharis are out and they're preaching and they need some support to be able to preach, because they may need food, or they may need the venue to preach in, or whatever, and that's what the householders come in. The Lord taught the Goswami about devotional service, comparing it to a creeper, and he advised him to protect the bhakti creeper most carefully against the mad elephant offense against the pure devotees. So he was talking about how your spiritual life is a creeper that you plant. Your spiritual master gives you the seed. They call the bijam. What is the word? Sanskrit. Anyway, the spiritual master is a provider of the bijam bhakti bijam, I think is what it is, and gives you the seed of bhakti yoga, right? And you can plant it. You have to till your soil, right? In a garden, you have to get all the weeds out. You have to take out the rocks, and you have to water it with the chanting of Krishna's names, and you don't add offenses by putting more weeds into your garden. So when you grow your garden, and when the mad elephants, Vaishnava Aparaya, I have to get these Sanskrit words exactly right, but it's basically a spiritual offense against the spiritual master or a pure devotee of Krishna is like growing a beautiful garden and then opening the gate and allowing a mad elephant that's running all over the place that kills everything in your garden because you've made an offense. In addition, the creeper has to be protected from the desires of sense enjoyment, monistic liberation, and perfection of the Hatha Yoga system. They are all detrimental on the path of devotional service. Similarly, violence against living beings and desire for worldly gain, worldly reception, and worldly fame are all detrimental to the progress of bhakti or Bhagavat Dharma. So Rupa Goswami wrote a very nice book called The Nectar of Instruction, which lays out some things that a person can do to help grow this creeper. Pure devotional service must be freed from all desires for sense gratification, fruitive aspirations, and culture of monistic knowledge. One must be freed from all kinds of designations, and when one is thus converted to transcendental purity, one can then serve the Lord by purified senses. So the designations are a lot of different things, but primarily about designations of identification with the body and the mind and the things that go on there. So when you're converted to transcendental purity, you are beyond the body, you're transcending the body and the mind. You can, and your senses are purified from the process, then you can serve the Lord with purified senses. As long as there is a desire to enjoy sensually, or to become one with the Supreme, or to possess the mystic powers there is no question of attaining the stage of pure devotional service. Devotional service is conducted under two categories, namely primary practice and spontaneous emotion. When one can rise to the platform of spontaneous emotion, he can make further progress by spiritual attachment, feeling, love, and many higher stages of devotional life for which there are no English words. So the Sanskrit words sometimes are very difficult to translate into English. We have tried to explain the science of devotional service in our book, The Nectar of Devotion, based on the authority of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu by Srila Rupa Goswami. So Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada has translated and purported upon and wrote a book called The Nectar of Devotion, which is recommended by our spiritual master to study. Transcendental devotional service has 5 stages of reciprocation. Number 1, the self-realization stage just after liberation from material bondage is called the Shanta, or neutral stage. Number 2, after that, when there is development of transcendental knowledge of the Lord's internal opulences, the devotee engages himself in the Dasha stage. Number 3, by further development of the Dasha stage, a respectful fraternity with the Lord develops, and above that, a feeling of friendship on equal terms becomes manifest. Both these stages are called Shaka stage, or devotional service in friendship. So these are different rasas, or stages, by which the living entity relates to Krishna. Above this is the stage of paternal affection towards the Lord, and this is called the Vatsalya stage. And above this, the stage of conjugal love, and this stage is called the highest stage of love of God. Although there is no difference in quality in any of the above stages, the last stage of conjugal love of God is called the Madhura stage. Thus he instructed Rupa Goswami in devotional science and deputed him to Vrindavan to excavate the lost sites of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. After this, the Lord returned to Varanasi and delivered the sannyasis and instructed the elder brother of Rupa Goswami. We have already discussed this. The Lord left only 8 shlokas of his instructions in writing, and they are known as the Shikshastaka. All other literatures of his divine cult were extensively written by the Lord's principal followers, the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan and their followers. The cult of Chaitanya philosophy is richer than any other, and it is admitted to be the living religion of the day with the potency for spreading as Vishva Dharma, or universal religion. We are glad that the matter has been taken up by some enthusiastic sages like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj and his disciples. We shall eagerly wait for the happy days of Bhagavad Dharma, or Prema Dharma, inaugurated by the Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The 8 shlokas completed by the Lord are. And so these are very wonderful, so I recommend having these on your wall or reflecting on these every day. Jai Lord Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Lord Sri Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Number 1, glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. Number 2, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living being, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Number 3, one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind. thinking oneself lower than the straw on the street. Excuse me. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. Number 4. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. Number 5. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms of your lotus feet. 6. O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? Number 7. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. Number 8. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he shall remain so even if he handles me roughly in his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. And that is the end of the introduction. So very wonderful. The Lord Chaitanya wrote only these 8 shlokas to put emphasis. The meaning of this whole spiritual world is encompassed in those 8 verses. So it's wonderful to reflect upon those, to meditate upon those, to memorize them, to write songs about them. You know, we're instructed by our spiritual master to at least recite the 3rd prayer. One should chant the holy names of the Lord in a humble state of mind, verse every day. And next time we will start with the 1st chapter of the 1st canto. So it's very exciting. Wonderful introduction. I haven't read that all the way through in a long time, so thank you for that opportunity, and we will see you next time. Namaste.